Hi, and welcome to the F Word. And this is the New Year's special. I am your racing driver and host, Daniela Sutton, and I am exploring the world of extremely fast females. So, this is a personal one for myself. When I started karting at national level in the Daniel Ricciardo Series UK Championship at the age of 12, this guest was already one of the top competitors in the championship. Welcome to the show, Alisha Palmowski. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, hi, Daniela, and hi, everybody listening. Firstly, a huge thank you for having me on your podcast. As you just mentioned, I've known you for years, but you've never interviewed me before, so this is a very different experience for both of us, I think.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, my name's Alicia. I'm 18 years old, and I'm a racing driver. I began racing back in 2016 when I started racing karts, back when I was about 9 years old. It seems like ages ago now. Um, Raced in the Daniel Ricciardo Series, which is a national championship, as you mentioned, where I met you and what you raced in. I became vice champion in 2020 and 2021 of the junior category. And then at the end of 2021, we wanted to make the transition from kart racing into car racing. So I entered the Ginetta Junior Scholarship, managed to win it somehow. And then that gave me the opportunity to compete in Ginetta Juniors in 2022 and 2023. And then for this year, it's been my first year racing in single seaters, competing in the GB4 Championship, where I managed to finish vice champion overall in my first year of single seaters, which was an awesome result. So it's been an incredible year. And I'm super excited to be joining the Red Bull Racing Pepe Jeans Academy program, racing in F1 Academy for next season in 2025. So that's a brief summary of my career up to date. So really excited for next season as well.
That's fantastic. Congratulations on all of that, by the way. Some amazing achievements there.
Thank you.
Um, so obviously your break into car racing was from the Ginetta Junior Scholarship. Um, and that was your only way to compete that enabled you to compete in car racing. And I assume that you wouldn't have been able to do it without it. Just like me with the Fiesta Junior Scholarship, the BRSCC Fiesta Junior Scholarship. I wouldn't have been able to race in Fiesta Juniors in cars this year if it wasn't for the Fiesta Junior Scholarship. Um, so it's amazing that you've got that far and had the determination to get that far. So talk me through what happened at the Ginetta Scholarship then.
Yeah, sure, and absolutely 100% you're right. Without winning the scholarship, my racing career would have probably ended by now. I certainly wouldn't have ever raced a car. And I definitely probably wouldn't even be racing now in 2024 going into 2025. So it massively changed my life, as it has done with you winning the Fiesta Junior Scholarship. Um, but yeah, the Ginetta Junior Scholarship, it's a competition where around 60 to 70 drivers enter. And there's fitness, media, and driving assessments. It's a 2 day process. So there's 30 drivers enter the first qualification day, and then the best sort of 10, 15 drivers go through to the final day. And they keep cutting the field. So it's quite a gruesome process, really. They have sort of 15 drivers, cut it to 8 drivers, and then cut it to 4 or 5 drivers for the final shootout. So it's very nerve wracking. And the prize is a fully funded season to compete in Ginetta Juniors. Um, and I was at 2021, the year when I won it, I was at the upper end of the age limit because it's sort of 14 to 17-year-olds. So being a junior championship. And I think I was 15 at the time, which for the scholarship, it was the oldest you could be. So it was the last opportunity for me to ever have an opportunity to race cars. So it was a really high pressure situation and something that I never thought I'd ever win. Because I mean, the caliber of drivers that enter the scholarship and the different variety of experience levels as well. You've got sort of world karting champions down to people who've never even sat in a go-kart or raced a car at all. So to have come out of it as the winner, it's changed my life, and I think it's my greatest racing memory up to date.
That's fantastic. Anyway, that you've managed to do that against such high competition as well. And look how far you've come, and look how that's enabled you to come this far. And I'm sure that you met some fantastic friends in the paddock um, along the time as well, and with your teams and everything. And I find the paddock a great place to be because I've made so many good friends as well. Friends as well.
Absolutely.
Like you don't just make friends with other drivers, you make friends with the teams or the other teams or mechanics, and it's just an amazing experience. And
Absolutely. And I think I'm just putting in there, sorry.
all right,
Sort of when you're in the racing, motorsport, and paddock, I mean, everybody's there for a mutual love of racing. We're all there for the same reason. It's the same sort of people as yourself, like around the paddock. So it's nice just to be in that environment around people. So I've met some great people, made some great lifelong friends, such as yourself. So yeah, it's been a great sort of 4 years. I think I've been in the race in the car motorsport scene now. So it's been crazy.
it's fantastic. And I've had the pleasure of coming to watch you a few times as well, which has been amazing. And I hope to come watch you again
Thank you.
for the 2025 season when you're racing the F1 Academy at tracks all around the world, which is amazing, a dream for me as well. So tell me a bit about, obviously, you originally went down the GT or tin tops car route with the Ginettas. And you seemed to be quite set on that. But then you deviated and you took a chance and you took a shot at GB4s, which is open wheel, slicks and wings, single seaters. So obviously, you were congratulations on being crowned GB4 vice champion, by the way,
Thank you very
which
much.
is amazing. So, what made you deviate from, that route of closed wheel cars and then go to single seaters? And obviously, I assume that the appeal of F1 Academy as well probably led you that way as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, coming towards the end of my Ginetta Junior career, obviously it's more of a GT car style car, the Ginetta Junior, obviously. Um, it was a big decision then whether we go down the GT car route or down the single seater route. I was fortunate enough to test a few different cars. So at the end of 2023, I had the opportunity to attend the Porsche Taster Day. So I tested a Porsche Carrera Cup car, which was extremely fast. It was amazing. Porsche Cayman as well. So they're sort of GT4, GT3 style cars, as well as a Formula 4 car. And for a family like us as well, it's a big decision because I don't come from the wealthiest family, pretty similar to yourself, really. And we rely fully on sponsorship in order to race. And the single seater ladder is quite narrow. There's pretty much one. There is a little bit more, but there's pretty much one route that goes F4, F3, F2, F1. And obviously, F1, I think, is every young driver's obviously dream. I think every young driver would love to race in Formula One. But being realistic, there's 20 drivers in the whole world that get that opportunity. So it is a risk going down the single seater ladder just with the lack of opportunities. And also the funding side of it as well. It's extremely expensive, probably more so than the GT car route. So it was a risk that we took this year going into GB4, but it was all with the intentions and aspirations of trying to secure a seat in F1 Academy for next year, which is just such a huge opportunity to showcase sort of what I can do on the global stage as a support series to Formula One. The paddock it's on is just incredible. So it was a risk, but I'm very happy now to say that it's paid off. So it's been a huge relief in order to have secured a seat next year. And I'm super excited to be continuing my single seater journey.
That's fantastic. And you're racing with Red Bull in that as well, which is a great name, a great team to be representing as well as a current world champion. Max Verstappen is racing with them, which is great. I think I'd be so happy as well if I took a chance like you did, coming from a working class family and it paid off like that. And you are an inspiration to me, Alisha, and you're a very, very humble person as well. So
thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. So actually, back to being humble and being very kind. On my first ever test, my first ever day in a Daniel Ricciardo series kart, you were there. It was soaking wet. I had never driven an outdoor two-stroke kart like that before in the wet. And I asked you for help, and you were very, very welcoming. And you were like, so basically, you just need to be a bit like this and throw it into the corner.
Awesome coaching.
Which it did help because I got faster throughout the day then.
There you go.
So you could always do that as well. You could always be a coach. You could even coach me. I'm sure I have a lot to learn
I
from
think
you
I'll have
as
to
well.
improve a little bit on like my technique. That's maybe wasn't the best sort of description, but oh well.
But for karting and for where I was at, it helped a lot as well.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah. So obviously a friendship formed from that, and you've been good family friends for ages. And we've been good family friends for ages, which is fantastic. And yeah, as I said before, I've had the pleasure to watch you race. It's honestly just been amazing few years, and we've known each other for I don't even want to think how many years now. It's gone by
I
so
know.
quickly.
I
Like
was
what,
thinking about
4 years?
I think it was 2019, like the very
Yeah,
end of it, when you had this first day that you were talking about.
yeah,
Which what's that now? 5 years,
5
five,
years,
6 years, yeah, something like
6
that. So
years.
it's been great for me as well, though, to watch your journey because I mean you're a couple of years younger than me, obviously, But your journey is very, very similar to mine. I think you're obviously running 2 years behind me because of the age. But I mean, we both won scholarships. We're both, you're now competing in the S Junior Championship, which is equivalent to Janetta Juniors, what I was in. So it's great to have watched your progress as well, because I literally saw you from the very start. So it's been awesome to see your upwards trajectory as well. So that's been great.
Thank you. And the Daniel Ricciardo series wasn't actually the first time we met as well. So we
Was
crossed,
it not?
no, we crossed paths at
Oh,
Daytona, Manchester, like ages ago. I think when
yeah.
you were
Yeah,
like
I think you're
10
right,
or
but I don't
something.
remember this very much.
Yeah.
But I've seen pictures and I know that we
Yeah.
were both
We were both
there.
together and I got a photo with you because my dad recognized you from like Instagram and everything.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
or we
Wow.
met you or yeah, which is crazy how things turn out and work
Motorsport's
out.
such a small world. Like you come across people all the time in different paddocks. It's crazy. But yeah.
It's like everyone knows you as well. So you come across I think I saw someone on when we were on the trip down to one of the racetracks at one time. There were people going to Le Mans just to drive it. Um, and they were in this little car, suited up car that was had loads of stickers over it. It looked really cool. And they were like, "Oh, you raced in such and such here, didn't you?" And that was like ages ago. It was years ago. And they're like, "Oh yeah, my friend's son raced with you." I'm like, "That's crazy."
Crazy. It is.
You
It's
get
mad.
recognized at a random service station as well.
I love it.
Um,
Amazing.
but I wouldn't change it for the world because it's my dream, and I'm sure you wouldn't change it for the world either.
Exactly. Exactly the same. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, obviously as well in motorsport, you have to be quite fierce and quite brave, and a lot of us get behind the machine and go upwards of 150 miles an hour, and beyond. Uh, has there ever been an instance where you've been terrified or felt kind of scared, whether this be at home or at the racetrack as well?
I think to be honest, I was thinking about this earlier actually because I thought this question might come up. And there has been various different times, sort of when I was on test days, if I was going to a circuit or a track, when I'd had an incident maybe at Thruxton, shouts out to me. I think I really struggled with that early doors. So when I was in races there, it was very nerve wracking for me to come over that sort of fear and face your fears head on in a race. But actually, I think it's got nothing to do with motorsport. But one of the most terrifying moments, genuinely, where I'd faced genuine fear of my whole life was when I was at your house. I think I was coming to a race weekend with you. I think this was the start of 2023. I think
Yeah.
coming up to a couple of years ago, and we were going to Shennington. But we were traveling on the early Saturday morning. I think so. I think this was the Friday night, something like that. That I was staying around at yours. My first time at your house, and you were showing me around, explaining stuff, and you said that you think your house is haunted by Derek the ghost. So obviously I was a bit confused, and I was like, oh, I don't know what she's on about. I don't believe it. But so I went along with it. I was like, oh right, okay. And you said about how about you hear footsteps and these different things happen, and I was like, oh, whatever. I was like, okay, I don't really believe it, but okay. Anyway, then fast forward a few hours, we go to bed. I'm obviously on my own. It's no light on. It's pitch black, and then all of a sudden, I'm just dozing off to sleep, so I'm not really with it. All of a sudden, I feel this like big weight on my legs, as if somebody sat on me. And I tried to move my legs and I couldn't move them. And I was like, oh my God, it's Derek. Like the ghost is here. I was like, oh my God, like he's literally sat on me. I was like, what do I do? So I was panicking, looking around, I'm trying to grab my phone for my torch because I'm like, what if I put the light on now and I can't see anything, but I can feel this weight and it's the ghost? Wow, this is terrifying. I nearly screamed and shouted for you. I was so scared. Got my phone, sorry, this is a long-winded story. Hold on. Put the torch on, and it was Trigger, your cat, and your cat had come into the room, and he jumped on me, and he started walking towards me, like staring me in the eyes. And I think I've never been so relieved to see a cat in my whole life because I don't know what I thought I was going to see, but it's got nothing to do with motorsport, but that's genuinely when I think I was the most scared of my whole life. So there you go.
So not scared of going upwards of 150 miles per hour on a racetrack, but
No,
terrified of Derek the Ghost and the
yes.
cat Trigger.
There's a headline for you. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that should be the headline of this podcast, actually.
definitely. Honestly, I'm not over it yet. I still get PTSD.
PTSD from Trigger the cat and Derek Ghost. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, not fantastic, but that is fantastic.
Well, it's funny to look back on now that I know I survived.
So, so obviously, being females in motorsport, you hear a lot of negatives about females and racing drivers and female racing drivers, whether it be um, on social media in a comment or by word of mouth either. Um, so in whatever you have competed in, you've managed to strive to the top and hit the top. From karting to cars, obviously GB4 vice champion here. Um, and in karting, twice vice champion. And in Janetta, you were able to compete at the top as well, against the likes of Freddie Slater and all those other drivers. Um, so obviously it's very male dominated as well. And that I feel like a lot of people look down on the women because of ratios. Like there isn't enough women to push as many to the front, if that makes any sense. It's just all down to the statistics. But I believe if there's 20% more females in the sport, there will be a lot more females in those top spots. Because I think that we can do it just as much as the boys can. And I think that you probably feel the same. So what are your views when you compete against the boys?
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with everything that you've just said. I think it's something that makes motorsport really unique, to be honest, that males and females can compete. And I think we can absolutely compete equally. Females with males, I don't think it should really make a difference. I'm a true believer that when a helmet goes on, when you go out in the car doesn't have a gender, and you're all out there just fighting for the same thing. We're all fighting for the win. And it really doesn't matter who's driving that car. It's sort of like I say when you're driving a road car, when you've got a car in front of you, there's so many things you don't know about that driver, whether they're male or female, how old they are, what the job is, where they're from, because none of it matters. They're just another car that's in front of you. I know you're not trying to like draft them and stuff on the motorway, but still, it's the same principle. Um, but then again, having said that, that then does arise the question of what is the purpose of F1 Academy and why are female only series needed if males and females can compete? And I think they're totally needed 100%. And the reason for that is sort of when I was 5, 6 years old growing up, I've always loved motorsport, always been a huge fan, grown up with the influence of it around me, always had Formula One on the telly. But when I turned the TV on and saw Formula One, there was obviously, and still is, there's no female F1 drivers. There was hardly any female engineers, mechanics. There's not just driving, obviously, to motorsport. There's many different aspects where you can get involved. And so the representation of females was just so low that I can't say that I was sad that I didn't think I could be a racing driver. I just didn't think that I could be one because I just didn't even know that it was an avenue that was available to me. So the whole purpose of F1 Academy is obviously a stepping stone for girls like me now going into it next year to try and further my career and grow up and sort of rise up the single seater ladder in motorsport. But also for the next generation of 5 to 6 year olds that when they turn the TV on, they've got all this representation of females and realise that they can get involved in the sport. So that at grassroots levels at karting, like you said, if we can get 20% more females involved, then I think this is the whole purpose of F1 Academy. And I already think it is working. I mean, I don't know from your experience, but when I go back to kart circuits, every other driver that comes off track and they're taking the helmet off is a girl. And I'm like, when I was racing in the paddock sort of in 2019, I think me and you were 2 of 3 maybe on the grid. I don't know.
Yeah,
There wasn't
I
many
think
at
so.
all. So sorry, I know I'm waffling. I think baseline is that absolutely we can compete, but equally, I think the F1 Academy is a fantastic series, and it's really helping as well the progression of females that are already in the sport and trying to get a female in the pinnacle of motorsport in Formula One, which again would change motorsport entirely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I hope to be um, an F1 driver in the future. That I feel like that's every young driver's aim or goal. You have to strive for the highest and strive for the highest
Absolutely.
echelon of motorsport as well. And I'm sure that's your goal as well. Which you're already this close. You're so close. You're going to be in that paddock with all the F1 teams and cars and everything, which is a dream of mine. And I'm sure it's a dream of come true of yours. Um, that being said, it can be very hard to persevere in motorsport because you have all of these pressures around you. Because as a racing driver, I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself to perform. And when you don't perform, you feel like you either let the team down or let yourself down or let your family down, because it's just down to you in the car on that race day. Obviously, you have all the support around you and all the help around you, but it can feel like a lot sometimes. But we do have to keep good determination, even when you undergo setbacks. So, have you experienced any personal setbacks yourself during your racing career that you've had to overcome to go again?
That's a really good question. And absolutely, yes, I have. And I totally relate with you in terms of the pressures that we feel, because a lot of people just see the drivers, on the podiums at the end of the races. They take all the sort of praise and yeah, and just all the limelight. But actually, there's so many more people involved. You've got a full team behind you, your family, which have put so many sacrifices in. So there's a lot of people that you want to make proud. So and perform well. So motorsport is full of highs and lows. The highs are very, very high and the lows are very, very low. And there's often more lows than there are highs. Um, I think there's two sort of setbacks that jump out to me just thinking now. And the first one would be actually my first genetic junior scholarship that I entered, because I actually did it twice. I came about fifth in my first year, which out of 60 was incredible. I was 14 years old at the time. I just missed out on the final shootout of the top four drivers. But that was, as I mentioned before, the scholarship was my only way of ever getting into car racing, because we just simply lacked the funding to make the step without it. So to have missed out, have been so close yet so far and not have come out with the win, that meant that I had to then return to karting in 2021. And that was just really tough mentally, not only for me, but for my dad and for my mum as well, for the whole family, because we knew that I'd come fifth with only one day in the genetic junior before going to the scholarship. So I'd got no experience compared to the other drivers pretty much. So we knew that I'd potentially got the talent to be able to go into cars, but just lacked the funding. So that was really tough mentally to get back up and be determined and, be in the gym and keep working hard and come back the next year. But then we managed to win. So it really was a success story in the end, but that was a difficult setback to overcome. And I'm waffling again, but I've got one more setback for you. You can cut this out if I'm talking too long.
You're not talking too much at all.
And another setback was actually the start of this year, when we had the news in about January, I think it was. It was actually the same day that Lewis Hamilton got signed to Ferrari, because I've seen a lot of people say, you remember where you were when that news came out. And I remember where we were, because we lost one of my primary sponsors for this year. And it was in January and the season was going to start in March. And we were trying to get pre-season testing underway in GB4. So that was a huge shock for us, really. We didn't expect it. And that put us in a real position that we didn't even think I'd be on the grid this year at all. So to now have secured a place with Red Bull Racing on the F1 Academy grid for next year, considering this time 12 months ago nearly, I didn't even think I'd be on the grid at all. It's another success story, and it shows why you should persevere and never give up.
That's fantastic. And your determination has paid off. Look where you are now. I've said that before. I think I've said that once before in this podcast, or maybe a few times, but obviously it's worked. And I'm happy for you. And I hope that I'm one of your best friends or considered that.
You are, absolutely.
I'm proud in a way, because you are an inspiration. I think I've also said that before.
Thank you so much.
But you mentioned about fitness there as well. So fitness is very key and vital in motorsport, because you have to withstand not only the forces that you are exerting on the car, but the forces that the car is exerting on you. So cornering and G-forces and everything that goes through your body, you have to be able to withstand during a race and for a prolonged period of time as well. And 20 minutes can feel like 3 hours when you're in a race as well, or it can feel like 2 minutes, depending on how well your race is going. But of course, you have to go to the gym and hit the gym and focus on that as well. So how do you focus on your fitness to maximize your performance within racing as well?
Yeah, another really good question. And fitness is something that I think is underestimated a lot from people who don't necessarily know a lot about motorsport, because it does just look like we're just sat down in a car, turning a wheel, pressing pedals, and that's it. When that really isn't the story at all. As you mentioned, the amount of G forces that we experience need a lot of upper body strength and also neck strength. Now that I'm in single seaters, that's now an element that's come into play. So any spare time that I have, I'm either on the sim or in the gym, just working as hard as possible. I've got a great support network around me now with Red Bull. I've got a full fitness program in place, which is support that I've never had before. So it's a great motivator for me to get up and go in the gym and know that I'm doing something right. And I've got targets that I'm always working towards. And I think there's only so many days a year that you can have in a car. Like if I wanted to go and test tomorrow, I probably can't, because it's not a case of like football. You don't just get a ball, go in your garden and just practice. It's so hard to do. so expensive. There's so much involved. But fitness is something that's in my control. That's something that I can work on and try and get an advantage over other drivers. So I do try and work as hard as possible, and hopefully it will give me an advantage in the future. But it's only going to get harder the higher up the ranks you go. So I always try and prepare for the next step because you never know when that next opportunity is going to come. So yeah, I do try and work as hard as possible.
Yeah, of course. And I feel like for me as well, um, even though I'm obviously lower than you are right now, I'm not in single seaters, so I don't really get neck soreness. But hitting the gym is equally as important, like cardiovascular fitness as well, because the endurance purposes of the racing as well. Like you don't realize after a race weekend how tired you actually are until after the race weekend, and then it makes you realize, oh, I need to work harder and harder and just keep going at it, and have that motivation to keep going and have the end goal as your motivation where you want yourself to be, because it is hard to keep the motivation as well, like we were talking about earlier, that it's hard to keep being determined and keep persevering. It can be hard to keep motivation, but if you just think about the car and racing and what you love, then it makes it a lot more easier to go out there and do things that most teenagers wouldn't be doing on a Saturday night. They'd probably be out partying instead of doing
Exactly. Yeah, I say that
fitness.
a lot. I say that a lot is in terms of the sacrifices you have to put in being a racing driver is I don't think I've led anywhere near a normal teenage life. I think any spare time that I had was either catching up on schoolwork because you miss so many days being at a racetrack or at the gym. Definitely not out partying or doing any of that stuff. So there's a lot of sacrifices. But as you say, if you've got the end goal in your sights, then it makes it all worth it.
Yeah, of course. And I think even though there's been a lot of sacrifices, like I haven't been able to go out with my friends or I haven't been able to go out partying, there's still parties going on at tracks as well. Um, and
Very
music.
true.
And I think I have better friends at the track than I do at school, because people at school just don't get it. And they don't understand that when you say no to them, it's not because you don't want to spend time with them, it's because
Absolutely.
you have your career in mind.
Yeah.
Um,
hmm
and some people just don't get that.
hmm
But when you're with everyone that's involved in motorsport, they understand that, and because they're involved with it directly. So the friends that I've made in motorsport are definitely friends for life.
I
Um,
totally agree. Yeah.
so yeah, with that being said, thank you, Alicia, and thank you so much for joining me on this podcast and joining me on the F word. And it's been a fantastic to have you on here. I hope that you have a great 2025 season, and I for sure will be supporting you throughout. And to everybody at home, have a great new year. This is the F word. Thank you for tuning in. Please share and subscribe and download as we explore the world of extremely fast females.
Thank you, everyone.